Hello everyone, how are you doing? Hope you're having a great day so far. Welcome to another video. Today we're going to do a little book review video about Hermann Hesse's Siddhartha. I had known nothing about the author before reading this book. I knew that the book was a classic, that it was written in the early 1920s, around that era, around that age, I believe. So over 100 years old, and it inspired a lot of people, mostly around the 60s and 70s, and that I already read about it on the introduction written by Paulo Coelho, which is also supposedly a Brazilian author, which is quite famous. I do know him by name, but I never read any of his stuff. So I wanted to check this book because it talked about spirituality, but not in preaching here's my religion sort of way, which is not my cup of tea at all. But it did. The description of it seemed interesting enough to be worth checking out. And it was a classic, so why not? It's rather small, so quite easy to read. I read it in 3-4 days, when I like one chapter a day or something like that. I could have read it in just one sitting if I had a couple of hours free. It's a decent book. I can see the appeal on some people, how it can be spiritually enlightening, how it can cause you to reflect on the priorities of life, the spirituality of life, mindfulness of life, living a life that is more in tune with yourself, and seeking the meaning of life, seeking other things beyond the life that you already have. And it resonated with me on several levels, because I also went in a similar path myself when I was dealing with depression mostly. I had this yearn to destroy the current that I am, to be able to try to find what I should be. And there's a certain duality, because a lot of people need to have roots on something to bloom their full potential, and need constant guidance. I think other people in society are exactly the opposite. They need experience. They need the experience of life to understand, to accept those guiding notes, so they can agree with them. And the journey that Siddhartha, the character here in the book, takes, somehow similar in that he's born to. I'm going to spoil a little bit of the story. He's born into a life of a spiritual person, a sect of Hinduism, from what I understand. I don't really understand all the Indian Buddhism, Hinduism jargon. There's a glossary at the end of the book, which was quite useful. Too bad it was at the end of the book, so I had to guess most of the things early on in the beginning. And I don't know how accurate the book is to what was actually happening in real life in India back then and nowadays. So I don't know how realistic it is, how much of it is fiction and how much is, based on true stories and true teachings and true relations. I assume that there are a lot of references that the book does to different parts of Buddhism and Hinduism that I'm not really getting, but I do get the overall message. So as I was saying, Siddhartha is the story of a boy, a teenager who is coming into age, and he is son of a spiritual person, and he's always been guided as that he's going to be this Brahmin person, following Hinduism and going into spirituality. But he thinks, or when he comes of age, he realizes that he needs to find it. It's not just doing what his father tells him to do, but he should go on a mission to to actually find the real spirituality, what it truly is. So he goes into several different stages of his life where he destroys his previous self to focus on something else. First, he lives as a samana, which is like a person that completely relegates any sort of, monetary, financial, material possessions, and just lives in a sense of spirituality and fasting a lot, eating the minimum, living in the woods. So supposedly an enlightening life, or searching for enlightenment life. Later on, he also meets up with another guy who apparently has reached nirvana, or attained nirvana, like one of a living Buddha of some sort, a guide who has become one with the spirituality. And he also relegates that because he doesn't want to follow the teachings. He wants to come into that decision himself. He wants to understand how you can be enlightened. He doesn't want to learn from the person enlightened. He wants to experience the way to reach the enlightenment. And he has this theory that you cannot reach it by hearing the teachings. You need to experience life for it. So again, he destroys himself, like all of his current concepts, and he goes wandering, looking for something, and he tries the material, the carnal possessions. He tries to find what love is, what passion is. There's some parts who felt a bit erotic, even in the book at some point. And he gets embroiled into the whole concept of capitalism and materialism, still trying to relegate it in some form, but ends up succumbing to it. That's another part of his journey into the whole spiritualism, also realizing that he has succumbed into material positions and having to relegate himself, and destroying all of his past for the third or fourth time now. So yeah, you can see a pattern here. He keeps seeking the spiritual enlightenment, but he never quite seems to get it, to grasp it. And at different stages of this, he reflects on these things, and the way that the narration is carried on the book, going through all of the different phases, really makes you reflect on the parallels to your own life. Or at least I felt that very strongly, and I think that's a lot of the charm of the book comes from that you try to you're never happy. You always try to find something else, and you need to destroy what you were to be able to try to achieve the things that you thought you already kind of achieved. Or you can just settle for something that you might regret in the future. And it's a different way of life. Different people have different ways of life. And there's also a deep reflection at some point in the book, where you try not to judge other people for their decisions. Each person needs to follow their own life. And then they have a parable about family as well, in tune with the entirety of time, and learning to accept the past, the future, yourself, that it's all meaningless and it's all important at the same time. So, and not propagating or repeating the desires as a parent. Don't transmit them to your son. Like, your son has its own journey to take upon. They also cover that in some passages of the book as well. So there's a clear message, or multiple messages or points of reflection throughout the book on different ways of living, and different going from the minimalism to the capitalism, the importance of love, the importance of accepting what you have, regardless of if it's returned to you or not. So a lot of small reflection points in that make the book interesting. Didn't particularly enjoy the ending. It did resonate with me on some points, mostly on part of the self-reflection, the mindfulness. I think it's very important. After you gain some experience in life, or at least I have felt that with my life, now that I'm older and looking back at all the things that I did, I think realizing what you're going through and accepting it, not accepting it in the sense that you're not gonna fight against it if there's something wrong, but being more in tune with your emotions instead of being reactive. Accept that it has happened and figure out a logical way to, break the pattern if you're in a negative pattern of some sort. And it's the same way that a lot of people have this ways to succeed philosophies, like surround yourself with only positive vibes, shut down anything that is negative, shut down the toxicity in your life that drags you down, and focus on your target. Visualize what you want to do, go for it, fake it until you make it, and strive for those things, and don't pay attention to the people who only bring negativity into you. And this also, I saw that all very reflected on the book as well, the spirituality behind the whole thing. Just learning, taking a time to stop whatever it is you're doing in your life and just evaluate if it's meeting your goals, and if it's not, try to reinvent yourself or figure out how to. Even if it's a small thing, it doesn't need to be like a complete change of life. You don't need to relocate to another city and change all of your friends or something like that. But even small things, sometimes you are so locked in the routine of doing the same thing over and over again, and you feel miserable about the whole thing, but you don't really see the way out. And dealing with depression for me helped me a lot to figure out how to break this cycle and to identify it straight away when I see it happening again, so that even if I have lower motivation times, I know what it is, and I know not to sink into that well and try to keep doing the minimums to be able to battle out of that downward spiral is what I usually call it. And I think this book reflects on that as well. At least it made me think about those aspects a lot, because I think it's important that people sometimes neglect, especially in a society that expects and demands something so much from the new generation. Like you are born and told that you need to study hard, succeed, get a successful job, get married, have these many kids, and buy all these things. And it's like your life is already planned out for you, but you yourself don't really know what you want to do a lot of the times, and you end up getting guided into someone else's road. And it's important that you try to find your own road, and it can be scary. And that's a lot of the feeling that is portrayed in this book as well. Finding your own path, and it can be hard and it can be brutal. And even if you dedicate a lot of your time, sometimes at the end it's not what you were looking for, and you need to pivot yet again. But it's part of life, and it's the accumulation of all those experiences that give you the wisdom to carry on and be more thoughtful and be more mindful. I like mindful as a word to describe it. So yeah, also has some relations with capitalism, materialism, and I'm very much into minimalism, or I was at some point. I don't like collecting things as much anymore, or it doesn't really say that much to me anymore, although some people do find a need for it in terms of nostalgia. Like you collect things because it reminds you of the thing, of what you were going through when you collected them. So that's why you end up collecting, and how some people end up, you know, accepting being hoarders into their life, that it's part of their comfort zone. And I try to destroy that a lot when I was dealing with the depression. I try to destroy all the materialism, like living a minimalistic life. Figuring out what was the base minimum, and the book talks about something like that as well, like going into this journey where it's just you, yourself, in touch with yourself, and without, you know, caring about what's going to happen, you know, in a day from now, which can be dangerous, especially as a parent. if you think of your son about to go on that journey, it can be scary, you know. It might feel like they are throwing their lives away, and now as a parent I also recognize a lot of those aspects a lot stronger than I did as a teenager and a person trying to find myself. So yeah, in a lot of those ways this book is interesting because it makes you reflect on those things, and I can see the appeal to the masses, why the book became a bit of a reference, a bit of a classic in some places. Overall, it's not like my favorite read. I gave it 3 stars, probably 3.5 would be more accurate. Don't really know what to think about it in the long term. I mean, I'll definitely use it as a reference at some point, like in talks and stuff like that. But it didn't feel like I particularly got anything out of it, other than thinking about things that I had already thought about on the past. So it wasn't like groundbreaking revelations for me. Give me a little bit more insight into Hinduism and Buddhism than I knew, and I guess that's good. It's always interesting to know a bit more about other cultures that are not as exposed to. So yeah, recommend you checking it out. It's so short that it's worth reading, just for the if you're curious. I think it's worth reading because it's really short. It's not that hard to read, and not that hard to get into either. Like the writing is very accessible. There are some parts, when it starts becoming more spiritual, philosophy almost, it can be a bit more hard to read, but overall I think it's pretty accessible. Anyways, that's it for this video. I wanted to talk about it, and let me know if you had already read, if you have any similar thoughts. Let me know in the comments below. Other than that, hope you're having a great day. See you next video. Bye bye everybody. Take care.